Something big is changing with Meta ads and most advertisers are not ready for it. I've been having some very interesting conversations recently with some very important people who really know. Just last week, for example, I met with Meta's CMO and some of the stuff he said blew my mind. It gave me a very different perspective, an idea of what's going to happen to Meta ads going forward and digital marketing more broadly. And whilst I can't share everything, what I can tell you is that the way Meta ads work is about to shift in a big way. This isn't just another minor update or algorithm tweak. This is a foundational change that's going to impact all of us massively. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's changing, why it's happening, what the future will look like, and most importantly, how us advertisers can succeed in what will be quite a bizarre new Meta ads world. So since Meta ads has existed in a form in which we would recognize it today, basically once conversion campaigns were invented and made widely available, I think we can split that time period into three distinct eras. So the first one probably lasted 5 or 6 years or so, what I would refer to as the media buying era. What do I mean by that? I mean that you could have won during that time period as a Facebook advertiser simply by having better media buying. So having a slightly more sophisticated targeting setup than your competitors, structuring your sales funnel in a multi-step way where you retargeted subsequent groups after they take a certain action and then you took them through a sales process. That would be a way to win. Having a bit more control over your placement options and all the various settings within a Facebook ad campaign. And it's not that that stuff then became unimportant. It absolutely remained important, still does to this day. We still work with clients and we can improve their performance based on better media buying. But as a place to gain significant competitive advantage, that diminished. And that diminished because the ad platform itself became more and more sophisticated. It automated more of that stuff for you. As advertisers more broadly adopted things like open targeting or automated campaign types, then really it was no longer a place where you could easily win. Like before, during that era, and I ran ad campaigns during that era for myself and for clients, you could use fairly basic ad creative even, but as long as, like I said, you had a better targeting setup or more sophisticated lookalike audiences or something like that, you could win based on those things. And like I said, as the platform developed, it became harder and harder to win in those areas. And the playing field from that sense was leveled and the floors were raised because less advertisers were making big mistakes with their media buying with the automated options. Then we moved into the next era, which I would call the creative era. So if everyone's, or not everyone, but a lot of people are somewhat even when it comes to the sophistication of their media buying, a lot going with automated campaigns, open targeting, all placements, things like that, then the focus turned to creative because that became the big area to win, to gain competitive advantage. And that's always going to be key in marketing. That's always going to be key in advertising. No matter what happens, to really succeed, you are going to need to find a way to have an edge to do things better than your competition. So if more of the media buying is handled by the platform, we switched over to creative. And creative really became the area where that was make or break. You could absolutely have a campaign with a unprofitable return on ad spend go to be very profitable with much, much better creative. And the days of simple image ads being thrown up quite quickly and almost like an afterthought to the Facebook ad campaign creation process really went, and people started investing a lot more time, effort into not just more complex ad formats like video and hooks and trying to analyze the detail on those videos to increase your hold rate so people watched higher percentages of them, and split testing different options, and really creative became the area of focus for a lot of advertisers. Now, right now, I think we are in a transition phase where we're sort of starting to leave the creative era and we're moving into the next era, which I call the AI era. Now, just like as we left the media buying era a number of years ago, it's not to say that creative is not going to be important going forward. It absolutely is. Creative is really important. It's going to be really important going forward. But it's going to become less of a place to win, less of a place to gain competitive advantage, with one major exception, which I'll get to in a minute. Why? Because AI tools are going to help even small businesses with very limited resources produce a level of ad creative that they would not have been able to produce before, to produce larger volumes, to produce higher quality. And we can see there are already tons of AI tools. I've created videos on them that can help you produce AI generated creative, ad creative. That's only going to get better. It's obviously going to get to the point where it's indistinguishable from an actual real person being included, or real sort of photo shoot or video shoot, whatever you call it, in order to produce the ad creative. That's going to get to the point where it is indistinguishable. And therefore, just like with the media buying, where 10 years ago, you'd have looked at some campaigns and you looked at the media buying and gone, this is terrible, we can really improve this. Over the last few years, I've looked at a lot of ad creative and thought, this is terrible, we can really improve this. That's going to become less of a thing as AI raises the floor on the quality of all creative. So like I said, I think we're transitioning into the AI era right now. And obviously, the entire meta ads marketplace, it doesn't move at the same time. Some industries are going to adopt AI and use it for their creative generation earlier than others to a wider degree. It's not going to happen evenly. It'll be unevenly distributed across different geographies as well. Some places will do it faster and earlier than others, but we are transitioning into that. And actually, I polled my audience on YouTube recently and asked them, are you using AI tools for creative? And you can see the results here. You've got yes all the time, 47%, sometimes at 30%, testing soon at 6%, and not at all at 18%. So already 77% of the people that have responded to this are using AI tools in their creative process. Even if it's not every ad they create or throughout the entire creative process, they are using it at least in part. So that's very interesting. Now, of course, this audience that is responding to my polls on YouTube are probably the hyper-responsive people that are really into this stuff, so that might skew the data. If you were to look at meta advertisers across the board, I imagine those percentages will be lower, but that shows significant adoption and fast, because so many of these tools really haven't existed that long at all, okay? So I should also say, before I move on with the AI era and talking about that being involved in creative production, is that there is still going to be room for real ads. It's not all going to be AI based. It's still going to be room for human input creativity and being able to stand out in that way. And in fact, a lot of the winners may come from that, because if they can layer that on top of the AI tools, they have a competitive advantage. Because remember, that's the real key here. But we can see the direction of travel. And Mark Zuckerberg fairly recently talked about his end goal for meta ad creative generation being massively AI based, and allowing advertisers to create individual ad creative for individuals. Obviously, you can't sort of do that manually and then set it up. That has to be done sort of behind the scenes using AI. And what that would allow, in theory, we haven't seen it yet, and I think we will in the future, in theory, us advertisers do is, let's say you're trying to sell a certain t-shirt, right? Well, to person A, you could show them a model that looks similar to them, same build, same height, same weight, so that person can look at that t-shirt and go, oh yeah, that looks good on them, that would likely look good on me, and then you could customize that to the individual, right? Same haircut, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so there might be issues and there might be some pushback and regulation around that sort of stuff. Lots to come there, but that's what he's talked about. In fact, we'll grab the clip that Mark talked about and quickly add it in here, because I think that's very interesting to go through.
In the future, if you were working with a creative agency to make creative, you'll probably keep doing that. If you aren't, then and you're just kind of hacking something together and throwing it into Meta's ad system, well, now we're going to be able to come up with like 4,000 different versions of your creative and just test them and figure out which one works best.
And the good news, particularly for smaller advertisers, is that these AI tools will help them compete with the larger businesses. For many years now, we've had situations where creative has been such a key component to success that the larger advertisers with the bigger budgets can work with the really good production companies and build in-house teams of videographers and video editors and outcompete the small advertisers on creative volume, but also on quality. And even though I've been recommending for many years, like more creative, better creative, and that's correct advice. That is how you win. But so many small businesses, particularly one-person businesses, when they're trying to do everything else, like they don't have too much time and resource to dedicate to producing high-quality stuff. AI tools is going to make it much easier for them in particular, help raise the floor on the quality of their ad creative, and that's really why we're transitioning out of the creative era, and that being the most important component where you can win as an advertiser. So that leads to the obvious question in the AI era of meta ads is, how can we win? How can we gain competitive advantage? Because that's always been the key. That will always be the key to successful marketing and advertising. It's How can I find a way to do things better and stand out from the competition, right? Have to find a way. That's not going to change. So I've thought about this a lot. And for me, there are three main areas of focus where we want to dedicate our time and resources, where we will still be able to gain a significant competitive advantage if done well during the AI era. And there's some interesting nuance to this stuff. So make sure you pay close attention to that. So the first one is brand, okay? So with so much AI generated content, I think customers, consumers, prospects, they're going to be looking for brand value to help cut through the noise. If there's just so much noise, they're like, right, don't know who to listen to, what actually is good, what's real, what's AI generated, don't know. But I trust this brand, I trust this person, I trust this corporate brand, I'm gonna buy from them. I'm going to pay attention to what they have to say when they speak. Okay, brand is one of the big ways people are gonna cut through that noise. So a few different options when it comes to brand. The first is you can leverage other people's brand to help you build your brand, not just for the long-term brand value that conveys, I'll talk more about that in a second, but to do so to directly improve the results that you get from your meta ads. So the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to use the Creator Marketplace. I'll quickly show you what that looks like. You can find that in Ads Manager, and if you just go ahead and click on these three lines, all tools, and then you should see the Creator Marketplace, which I've already come into here. And here's a great place to find creators that you could use to feature within your Facebook, Instagram ads, right? So you could say, here's my product, I'm gonna send it to you, I'm gonna pay you X amount, use the product. If you really like it, please record some short videos that we can run as ads promoting the product. You could do the same obviously with services too. Really good tool, strongly recommend. You can go in and make contact with people. There's approximately 1.3 million creators, so tons. When you do make contact with creators through this, it goes to a special folder in their Meta Business Suite inbox, so it sort of cuts through the noise a much better way than just reaching out and DMing people and stuff like that. Completely free tool to use, built within the Meta ad platform. I've got a whole tutorial on the Creator Marketplace. I'm not gonna go into tons of details here, so you can find that on my channel if you want more information, but just wanted to quickly highlight that. And I'm such a big fan of working with creators and influencers to help produce your ad creative for you. Firstly, a good creator or influencer today will produce better quality stuff than AI. If you look really closely, most of the AI generated videos, you can still work out that it's AI generated, right? So there's an advantage there. Secondly, if you're working with someone that is relevant to your target market, which hopefully you will be, they will carry scroll stopping ability. Someone scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, oh, okay, yeah, I know this person, I like what they have to say, I'll actually pay attention. That's huge, your hook rates increase substantially. They also have much better holding ability, as in, they're not just gonna click off going, oh, who's this, whatever. They're likely to keep watching because they like that person. And then thirdly, their recommendation carries weight. So if they say, you should buy this product or service, I think it's great, then you are far more likely to go ahead and take that action. So it's quite understood the impact of influencer marketing, how beneficial it can be, but I really like combining it with ads because you get to leverage the brand that those people have built. Those people have built brand, their signal, what they say, will cut through the noise, will cut through all the AI generated stuff, and people in your target market are far more likely to pay attention. And I think that you can gain a significant advantage in ad performance by using creators now that is only going to get better as there's more and more AI generated stuff and people are trying to sift through that to find the stuff that they should really listen to, right? So the importance of this as a tactic is going to be massive. And of course, by working with creators over a longer time period, that's one of the quickest and fastest ways to build your own brand. If you think about like the luxury men's watch companies, I suppose probably applies to women's watches as well, right? What do? They work with the most successful sports athletes around the world to promote their stuff. Why? It builds the association with those people, builds the company's brand, and that's how you end up with watch brands that are worth an incredible amount of money and they're able to charge an insane amount for these luxury watches, right? Is because of that association, demonstrating quality. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, etc., right? So that's a good way to build your brand over the long run. But one thing, I've talked about that before, but one thing I want to add here now that I haven't covered yet is what's likely to happen in the creator landscape, in the influencer landscape. Right now, the vast majority of creators and influencers, almost exclusively, are real people. They're people like me who talk about a topic, they have a following around that topic, their recommendation carries weight, etc., etc. But in the future, there will be AI versions of people like me. There will be fully AI creators. There will also probably be hybrids. You'll have real people like me. You'll have fully AI created personalities that build followings. And then you'll have hybrids. So you might have people who started out as a regular human, real creator, but worked out they can produce twice as much content or 5 times as much content if they replicate themselves in an AI form. Now, what's interesting for us advertisers is that I think all those creator types will be valuable. They will all be people that we want to use, or I say people, they will all be creators that we might want to use to help promote our products and services. All will carry weight. If people follow an AI-based creator and they like the content that that AI-based creator produces, and their recommendation will still carry weight, I still think that will be a thing. So I think in the creator marketplace, we're likely to see different categories at some point. You might have like human creators, AI creators, and then there's going to be whole industries built around that, right? So you're going to be working with an AI creator, or more likely the people that control an AI creator and set all that up and everything like that, to negotiate brand deals and negotiate, this is what you charge to promote my product. And there's probably gonna be whole AI influencer agencies popping up, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I definitely think that's on the cards. We'll get back to the video in a second. Before we do, I just want to quickly let you know about my mentorship program. Now, with my mentorship program, me and my team mentor people daily to help them get the best possible Facebook ad results. We've actually had some amazing results recently from some of our mentees. We'll pop them up on screen right now. In fact, 82% of people that join my mentorship program see a notable improvement in their Facebook ads return on ad spend within just 30 days of joining. And that's a stat that I'm really proud of. There is a link in the video description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website and book in a free, no obligation call with one of my team members to find out more about it and see if it would be a really good fit for you. Hopefully we get a chance to work together. So you can use this strategy today, and you will be able to going forward to help you get better immediate results, whether it's with real human creators or AI based creators, to help you get immediate results. That'll also, if done well and over time, help you build your own brand separate from continuing to need to work with those creators, although you may still choose to, of course, to help reinforce, and you will build brand value over time. Definitely something I'd recommend. But then there are also other businesses that are already established and have massive brand value, whether that's associated with a personal brand or with a larger corporate brand. And one of the questions that I've been thinking about is, will this new era, this new AI era, favor those larger businesses? Because like I said, brand is going to become more important. That brand value is going to become more important. And what that might lead to is a consolidation of markets. So the larger incumbent businesses, and I think that there will be a force pushing in this direction. There's a force going the other way, which I'll explain in a second. A force going in this direction where there's so much AI stuff out there that people are sort of learning to tune it out unless there's that brand value. Therefore, they gravitate towards the big players in every industry thinking, well, I'll buy this from them, or I'll use them for a service, or I'll buy based on this person's recommendation because I trust this person. I trust them to have done their research and found the right option for me, because I can't filter through so much of this other stuff, right? That might occur, and I think some markets will definitely go that way. And this is often something that we see with new tech developments. There's like a pattern here where initially there'll be loads and loads of players. New text gets developed, loads of players pop up that take advantage of it really quickly, and then over time, markets slowly get consolidated. So we've got some classic examples, right? If you think of the e-commerce space, a few decades ago, there would have been a much more even distribution across, even though it was a much, much smaller market, across the e-commerce sales that occurred across lots of different websites. And slowly over time, more and more of that gets consolidated towards Amazon. Okay, think of search. So at the beginning you had loads of search players, and then over time more and more of it was consolidated by Google, and you end up with one massive player. Yes, there's still obviously room for other players. There's lots of successful e-commerce businesses, but yeah, they sort of over time get shrunk out in e-commerce space. You end up with Amazon and then Shopify, obviously offering different things to different people, but that's the sort of process that goes through. And actually with search, if you think of the Google with search example, we've had a big new tech development in AI search options, and that has once again made room for lots of new players. So it's not just Google in there. You've got ChatGPT and you've got Claude and you've got other options, and over time, I would expect there to end up being one or two big winners, and those markets get consolidated. My money would still be on Google because I think they've got they've got inertia on their side. If they just incorporate AI search into regular Google search, which they're already doing with AI overviews, they have AI mode, that's going to become more and more part of regular Google, then I just think there's so many people that will never switch over to anything else because they'll just keep using Google and it'll sort of happen under their feet. And that's why I think Google will probably win that over the long run, but we will see. Crazy things have definitely happened, right? So if that is going to be the case, that these larger brands in markets are going to benefit more from the AI era, what does that mean? Get building your brand now. Work with creators, work with influencers, make sure that all the messaging within your company and your packaging and your branding and the interactions your service-based personnel have with your customers, like that's all on point and helping you create a brand. Make sure that there's a story associated with why your company is. All the things we know, I'm not going to go into tons of detail here, but start doing it now so that you can be part of the establishment if this force really, really kicks in. But there are some instances where I think we're going to see potentially the opposite happen. Instead of the AI era really favouring the larger established companies because they have the brand value, which will happen in many instances, but in other instances, I think we'll have an opposite force. And that's going, if you think about the marketplace right now, most of us as marketers, we are thinking about using AI tools to help us create marketing and ad campaigns that sell to real people. But this is already happening now, and going forward, this is going to become more and more important. We're not only going to be using AI tools to create marketing campaigns to sell to real people, we're going to be using AI tools to create marketing campaigns to sell to AI, right? Selling to AI agents. Now, one of the places where this is most obvious and already happening is in search. How many of us are using AI-based search to help us find products and services to buy? I'm certainly doing that. I was literally doing that last night, doing some early Christmas present shopping. I was buying for someone that has recently got a dog, and I was asking for all sorts of ideas around, presents for a new dog owner and stuff along those lines, right? And you think about how that shifts that market from, if we think about traditional SEO, so search engine optimization was trying to do various things to get your website to rank highly in Google and other search engines so that when people were searching for stuff, they're more likely to click through to you and purchase. Well, now, so many of us have switched to AI-based search experiences. That's a very different mechanism. But also, even with the traditional search, you search on Google, and how many times do you now see an AI overview as opposed to like what you used to see, which you had your ads and then you had your organic links. So traditional SEO is really struggling. But in its place, which is designed to do a very similar thing, but obviously through a slightly different mechanism, are AEO agencies, AI engine optimization agencies that are designed, that are trying to do certain things to make it more likely that the AI will recommend your business a link to your website as opposed to others. So it's the same idea. It's like, how do we, as a business, capitalize on the potential of organic traffic to get people to come through and buy, become a lead, etc. But instead of doing it through search engine optimization, SEO, it's now AEO, AI engine optimization, right? And just going back to the example where I was looking for various dog related or things that you buy a new dog owner, I was recommended a very specific website from AI that I'd never heard of before that was absolutely perfect. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. I don't know if this company had done anything to make it more likely that they would be recommended by an AI based search option, but that's what had come up, and that will become a bigger and bigger thing going forward. So it's easy to understand in search, but absolutely the same thing is going to happen in Meta too. Like, there will be AI agents using the platform. They will know what their owners, controllers like, and they will work to go out and find things that they liked in order to present people with them. They'll be able to make recommendations. And in fact, eventually we'll see it go further and the AI agent will just straight up buy it for people. For a while, it's going to be the AI recommends to a person who then purchases. And after a while, it's just going to be straight up the AI agent will just go ahead and purchase. So what does that mean in terms of the shifting dynamics then? If we're selling to AI, what might that do to the marketplace, and what might we need to do as advertisers? What might we be able to do? So one very obvious use case, I think, is that when we're selling to AI agents, as opposed to just people, we'll be able to get really specific with the offerings that we're going to give people. Because if you have an AI, if there are AI agents out there looking for stuff or knowing very precisely what someone wants, they will do a better job of finding the ultra niche thing than a person would most likely. Okay, so let me give you an example, right? So previously, there may not have been a viable business case for a business to create a product that is a dog walking jacket for a man that is 5'9", has longer than average arms, wants very specific pockets for dog poo bags, a spare lead, a whistle, a waterproof pocket for a ball because they always get wet, isn't too warm, can also double up as a jacket you go to a restaurant in, etc. Like that might be something that I'm interested in. A very specific use case for me. Previously, you just couldn't justify creating a product like that because the market is so small and how can you actually reach that people? Well, even if the market remains small, but with AI agents you can reach, do a much better job of reaching those individuals, maybe you can now make a case for it. Like if my AI agent in the future knows exactly what I want and finds it for me, great, I get the product I want that's super specific to me, but the business can also justify creating it, designing it, manufacturing it because they're going to sell enough. Larger businesses are not going to be interested in that because the total addressable market is just not big enough. So those bigger brands I talked about previously, like that's not going to really interest them. That's going to be only a place where smaller businesses live and operate because of the market dynamics. So that might allow for a proliferation of smaller businesses where you have like the big incumbent brands benefiting from the brand value, like I already talked about, cutting through the AI noise, and they sort of occupy the center of each market. And then you have lots of these smaller businesses that can be really successful, and there's tons of them because they serve really specific niches and really specific use cases because AI is much better at actually finding them, both from sort of inbound and outbound, right? So the AI can find them and they can also use AI tools to help them find people better, which is obviously already happening in platforms like Meta. So if that's a force that's going to take place, which it may well do, what's the recommendation there? Niche down. Really helps you stand out. I mean, if you're a small advertiser, I've been recommending this for a while. Like I've spoken to a lot of businesses that are trying to sell, say, sports apparel, and their products look just like what Nike's products look like. And you're like, that's tough, right? Like you'd be much better off coming up with a very specific use case that a big company like that wouldn't bother with, and you can dominate that market and then look to expand from there, right? So helps you stand out if you niche down, helps you deliver more, because like the previous example of the product I gave, that would be such a valuable product for me. I would love it. That would be great. And when you are more specific to the person you serve or the people you serve, you can tailor it more to them and it can be more valuable. They have to make less accommodations or less compromises in their purchasing decisions. And if we tie this back into what Meta's doing as an ad platform with Andromeda, so if you're not familiar with Andromeda, it's the big thing. Everyone's talking about Meta ads right now. It's a much more sophisticated retrieval system, which basically allows Meta to be more personalized with ad delivery, so they can choose exactly which ad fits which person, etc. Well, you can see how that would tie into what I just talked about, being able to be ultra specific with your product and service offerings because you have a greater chance of actually reaching those people with Andromeda, and that's the way platforms geared up, and that's what's going to come in the future is more and more of that, so you can get more specific, and that might be great news for smaller businesses and future entrepreneurs that want to be able to carve out their own little place within a much larger market. I'll get back to the video in a second, but first I want to let you know about Particle. Particle is a fantastic tool that takes meta ads targeting from good to exceptional by providing the in-depth market intelligence and competitive insights necessary to truly understand and reach the right audience in 2025 and beyond. With Particle, you can track competitor sales, pricing strategies, and product launches down to the SKU level, which means you can identify which strategies are working well for your competitors, understand their target audience's purchasing behavior, and uncover untapped market opportunities for your ads. Particle can also help you find new audiences or market segments by revealing top-selling trends or product opportunities. Combine that with Particle's granular SKU level data, and you'll be able to make more informed decisions about targeting, creative, and overall campaign strategy. Right now, you can get started with Particle for free, no credit card required. Just click the link in the video description below. So the second key area of focus where you can gain a competitive advantage in the AI era and something to focus on is data quality. So the best meta advertisers in the world, and I've been fortunate to meet many of them, many people that run meta ads for the largest companies in the world and the biggest budgets in the world. They are absolutely obsessed with data quality. They have data scientists part of their team, they have developers, they dedicate a ton of resources to getting their data quality, their tracking, etc., as good as it can possibly be. And Big part of the reason why is because data helps AI perform better. It's what it feeds off. If Meta has a better understanding of who our customers are, who exactly has bought, who hasn't, the steps they took before they did that, they'll be able to improve our campaigns and help improve our results. And as the AI within the platform improves, that's only going to become more important. So of course, most people watching this are not going to be able to employ data scientists and developers to really dig into this and find those little incremental improvements, but there is some stuff that you can do. Make sure that you've got the conversions API installed properly. Make sure that you've got high event match quality and take the actions that Meta recommends if you don't have high event match quality. Winning here is certainly possible. A lot of your competitors will not be doing this stuff. And even when I speak to people at Meta, they say that one of their biggest annoyances with working with even larger agencies and larger advertisers is one of the basics they often don't do is make sure that this stuff, Conversions API CAPI, is installed properly and firing and things like that, which drives them mad because they know how much of an easy win that is for advertisers, but you can still win there. So I think that a lot of marketers, including myself, are going to need to get more technical. We're going to need to start to understand these things, or at least have someone on our team that is able to do this. And it could be simple to be like, okay, well, surely Meta's going to improve the system and then we won't have to worry about this going forward. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be a continued area for competitive advantage because we're in sort of a battle as marketers to some extent against the regulators that are trying to introduce new privacy rules, trying to restrict our ability to track, our ability to see what goes on. I mean, some locations make this much harder than others, like the EU being the classic example. It being much harder to track and see what people do in the EU versus other locations. And actually, I mean, you could argue it's hurting the European economy more generally. I mean, the digital landscape is such a huge part of the economy in any place and making it much more difficult for businesses to operate and market there and spend money. And I see it anecdotally that there are lots of businesses that will choose to not spend their money trying to build customers and things like that within the European market and do so elsewhere. And we also see the big tech developments all coming out of either Asia or North America, and that's hurting. That's kind of a bit of a side rant there. That might mean that Europe opens things up and makes it a lot easier to track in the future. We will have to wait and see. But we're always in this sort of battle against regulators. There's going to be new things brought in that we're going to then have to do things to help to try and overcome or find other ways of doing things so that we have that data quality, because that is so important. And I think that if we're looking at technological developments and thinking down the line, and this one really being the AI improvements, is to think, what do the top 1% in a market get now? Because that's likely to be rolled out and be made more widely available. I mean, we could think of things like when cars were new, that would have been the case. When mobile phones were new, that would have been the case. And now cars and mobile phones are owned by the majority of people. So if right now within the Meta ads marketplace, really good data quality is like a privilege of the biggest advertisers with the biggest budgets, the top 1%ers, that is something that is going to become more widely available. And if you can get ahead of that, so you could jump on it a year, 2 years, maybe more before your competitors, then that could be a really big deal. The third key area of focus where you will be able to win as a Meta advertiser in the AI era, where you will be able to gain a competitive advantage, is speed. So the pace of change is already nuts. Like, there are literally new features, new updates every single week. That's not going to slow down anytime soon. If anything, it's likely to speed up. And I think that jumping on new stuff will be a massive competitive advantage. So right now, for example, ads are being rolled out to WhatsApp. And that's new. That's very exciting for us Meta advertisers. A lot of your competitors won't know about it. They won't take advantage of it for weeks, months, in some cases, maybe even years. If you can jump on stuff like that, you can get really significant gains quite quickly, because we know as ads are rolled out to WhatsApp, they are going to be cheap. The CPMs, cost per 1,000 impressions, are going to be cheap. Why? Because the CPM price is set by how much advertiser demand there is. And like I said, if less advertisers jump on it, then there'll be less ads put there and cheaper CPMs. That means cheaper conversions. That means you might be able to potentially hoover up a lot of market share, a lot of customers that you can remarket to, that you can get to buy again. huge advantages. Get your brand in front of people. So absolutely something to go ahead and take advantage of. And you have extra advantage here if you're a smaller advertiser, because you can act quickly. You're nimble. A lot of bigger businesses will be like, well, you know, we need to get approval. We need to make sure it hits our brand guidelines. That process is probably going to take months for a lot of businesses to go through. Now, this keeping up with change and take advantage of new stuff applies in platform and outside of platform too. So there's going to be stuff within Meta Ads. There's also going to be external tools, particularly around things helping with data tracking, helping with AI generation around creative and all sorts of options like that. I will do my absolute best to keep you updated. And actually a good example of that is a video released a couple of weeks ago on Andromeda. And a lot of advertisers are struggling with the Andromeda update simply because they're not really aware of what it is, how it works, or what they need to do as advertisers in response to it. So if you're still running ad campaigns that were geared up to succeed pre-Andromeda, good chance they're not working right now. And actually that video you can go ahead and check out right here. I break down exactly what's changing, why it's changing, and what you need. The most important part is what you need to do as an advertiser to succeed. So go ahead and check this out and keep an eye out for my future videos.